Ladies and gentlemen, fasting is an ancient practice deeply rooted in various cultures and religions. However, when we talk about fasting in Islam, Christianity, or other traditions, most people assume it's simply about abstaining from food and drink for a set period. The truth, however, is far deeper and more profound. When people think of fasting, they often see it as a religious obligation, something to endure rather than embrace. But fasting was never meant to be a mere ritual or rule followed blindly. At its core, fasting is a means to elevate one's inner self, a process of cleansing not just the body, but also the mind and spirit. Over time, however, many have reduced fasting to a routine, something done out of obligation rather than understanding. The deeper purpose has been lost in the mechanical repetition of rules and regulations. Humans naturally cling to rituals because they offer structure and discipline, but if followed without awareness, rituals become empty actions. The real power of fasting lies not in how long one abstains from food, but in the transformation it brings within. When approached with understanding, fasting goes beyond controlling hunger. It becomes a journey into oneself. It is a way to break free from compulsions and the constant need to satisfy desires the moment they arise. The body and mind are deeply connected. The more we overfeed our bodies unnecessarily, the more restless our minds become. Fasting is not just about skipping meals. It's about shifting our awareness. It's about recognizing how much control external influences have over us. Food is one of the biggest forms of attachment. Most people don't eat because they're hungry. They eat because it's mealtime. Others are eating, they're stressed, or simply bored. If we're constantly responding to such compulsions, where is our freedom? Where is our true sense of choice? Fasting creates space between our impulses and our actions. It allows us to observe ourselves, to witness our cravings without immediately acting on them. And in that space, something profound happens. When one learns to master hunger, they begin to master other aspects of life as well. Suddenly, anger doesn't control them the way it used to. The mind becomes clearer, emotions more balanced, and there's a sense of lightness both physically and mentally. But when fasting is turned into a rigid rule, all of this is lost. It no longer serves as a tool for inner growth. It becomes a burden. People fast because they're told to, not because they understand the deeper meaning behind it. Some may even count the hours, impatiently waiting for the moment they can eat again. In such cases, fasting becomes just another obligation, a task to complete rather than an experience to live. This is why fasting, in its true form, must be approached with awareness, not just as a ritual to follow, but as an opportunity to explore one's own nature. Discipline is often misunderstood. Most people see it as a form of restriction, a set of rules imposed to limit freedom. But real discipline is not about following rigid instructions. It's about gaining mastery over oneself. Discipline is not something forced upon a person. It's something one cultivates within. Without discipline, there is no real awareness, and without awareness, there is no true freedom. The moment one is ruled by impulses, unexamined habits, or external influences, they are no longer in control of their own life. Fasting is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to develop this inner mastery. When one fasts, they are not just avoiding food, they are consciously choosing not to give in to immediate gratification. In that act of choice lies immense power. It's easy to eat when hunger strikes, but to pause, observe that hunger, and sit with it rather than react to it is a completely different experience. Most people have never truly experienced hunger in its purest form. They eat out of routine, emotion, or habit, reaching for food at the slightest discomfort. But when one fasts with awareness, they begin to notice how much of their behavior is dictated by unconscious patterns. They see that their cravings are not just physical but deeply psychological. Discipline through fasting is not about punishing the body. It's about understanding its needs versus its desires. The body does not actually require as much food as people consume daily. Overeating has become the norm, not because the body demands it, but because the mind has been conditioned to seek pleasure through food. When a person fasts, They disrupt this conditioning. They give the body time to rest, heal, and function without the constant burden of digestion. In that stillness, a new awareness arises. But discipline without awareness is meaningless. If a person fasts simply because they're told to, following the rules mechanically without understanding, fasting becomes just another routine. True discipline is not about suppression, it's about observation. When one fasts with awareness, they begin to notice their relationship with food, their body, thoughts, and emotions. They see how deeply intertwined these aspects are and recognize how much energy is spent satisfying fleeting desires instead of channeling it toward something greater. With discipline comes clarity. The mind, no longer preoccupied with constant indulgence, becomes sharper. A person who gains control over their hunger naturally develops control over their speech, emotions, and reactions. They are no longer tossed around by every passing impulse. They begin to experience a sense of balance, a state where they are not driven by compulsions but by conscious choice. And when one operates from this state, life itself transforms. Energy is the fundamental force that drives all life. Everything a person does, whether eating, thinking, moving, or sitting still, requires energy. Yet most people go through life without truly understanding how their energy functions. They consume food to gain energy, but often do so in excess, leaving the body sluggish rather than vibrant. They engage in activities that drain their energy without realizing it, and allow their mental and emotional states to be dictated by external influences, wasting energy on unnecessary conflicts and anxieties. How energy is managed determines the quality of life, and fasting plays a profound role in reshaping this understanding. When a person fasts, something remarkable happens at an energetic level. The body is constantly using energy to digest food, process emotions, and respond to external stimuli. When food intake is temporarily paused, the body redirects this energy toward cleansing, healing, and renewal. Instead of being occupied with breaking down food, the system focuses on repair and restoration. This is why during fasting many experience heightened clarity and alertness. It's not just because of the absence of food, but because energy is being redirected in a more efficient way. Beyond the physical aspect, fasting has a direct impact on consciousness. Consciousness is not just awareness in the conventional sense, it's the depth of perception with which a person experiences life. For most, consciousness is clouded by distractions, food cravings, emotions, and external noise. The constant cycle of eating, digesting, and craving keeps people in a state of mental and emotional turbulence. But when fasting is done with awareness, the mind becomes still, and in that stillness a new level of perception arises. Ancient sages and spiritual seekers understood this deeply. They fasted not as an act of deprivation, but as a tool to refine their consciousness. They knew that when the body is light, the mind is sharp, and when the mind is sharp, perception expands. In every spiritual tradition, fasting is linked to deeper states of awareness. It's no coincidence. Fasting alters the way energy flows in the body. Instead of being scattered, energy becomes concentrated. Instead of being wasted on unnecessary indulgences, it becomes available for higher states of experience. Modern science now acknowledges what these ancient traditions have known for centuries. When a person fasts, the body undergoes a process called autophagy, where it cleanses itself at a cellular level. Beyond the physical benefits, fasting influences the mind in ways few other practices do. It creates space between impulses and reactions, allowing a person to observe their tendencies rather than be controlled by them. This is the gateway to a heightened state of consciousness. However, fasting without awareness does not lead to this transformation. If one fasts simply out of obligation, counting down the hours until they can eat again, the deeper effects remain untouched. But when fasting is approached with the intention of harnessing energy and expanding consciousness, it becomes a powerful tool for inner growth. The body functions with greater efficiency, the mind becomes clear, and awareness deepens. When energy is managed well, life doesn't feel like a struggle. It becomes a process of effortless flow. Fasting is not confined to any single religion, culture, or period in history. It has been practiced by nearly every civilization, not as an act of deprivation, but as a means to cleanse, discipline, and elevate human experience. While today fasting is often seen through the lens of religious obligation, its roots go much deeper. Long before religious doctrines were written, fasting was a natural and instinctive practice among humans and even animals. When sick, animals instinctively refuse food, allowing the body to redirect energy toward healing. Similarly, ancient humans, before the advent of agriculture and regular meal patterns, naturally underwent periods of fasting due to food scarcity. Their bodies adapted, and over time, they discovered the profound effects of fasting, not just on physical health but also on mental clarity and spiritual awareness. In spiritual traditions across the world, fasting has always been seen as a bridge between the physical and the divine. Hindu sages retreated into the forests and fasted to purify their bodies and sharpen their minds for deeper meditation. In Buddhism, monks and practitioners observe fasting as a way to cultivate detachment from worldly desires and focus on inner stillness. In Judaism, fasting is a means of atonement, reflection, and renewal, as seen in Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. In Christianity, fasting is an essential practice of spiritual refinement, whether through Lent or other periods of sacrifice. In Islam, fasting during Ramadan emphasizes self-restraint, reflection, and gratitude. Even among indigenous cultures, fasting has been used in vision quests and rites of passage, allowing individuals to break away from the material world and connect with something greater. The remarkable aspect of fasting is that despite differences in traditions, the underlying principles remain the same. Every culture that has practiced fasting recognizes that it's not merely about avoiding food. It's about shifting focus inward, mastering desires instead of being enslaved by them. Whether it's a Hindu yogi fasting in the Himalayas, a Native American seeking vision through fasting in isolation, or a Muslim observing Ramadan with devotion, the essence remains unchanged. It's an act of purification, breaking the cycle of indulgence and re-establishing balance within. Modern science is now beginning to confirm what these ancient traditions have long understood. Fasting triggers profound changes within the body, from cellular repair to enhanced cognitive function. Intermittent fasting, which has gained popularity in recent years, is nothing more than a rediscovery of what has been practiced for millennia. Whether for spiritual, mental, or physical reasons, fasting has always been a tool for transformation. However, in many cases, the deeper purpose of fasting has been overshadowed by rigid rules and mechanical observance. Many fast simply because they are told to, without questioning its significance. The true power of fasting lies not in the mere act of avoiding food, but in the awareness and transformation that come with it. When approached consciously, fasting transcends religious boundaries and becomes a universal tool for self-mastery and inner growth. It's not about one tradition versus another. It's about recognizing that all traditions in their essence point toward the same truth. Fasting is often perceived as a religious obligation or a form of self-denial, but at its core, it's a sophisticated biological and psychological process. Long before it was associated with religious rituals, fasting was a natural part of human evolution. Early humans did not have access to an unlimited supply of food. They went through cycles of feasting and fasting depending on resource availability. The body adapted to this rhythm, developing mechanisms to function efficiently even in the absence of food. Today, modern science is uncovering what ancient traditions instinctively knew. Fasting is not just about abstaining from food. It's a precise and powerful tool that affects every aspect of human physiology. At a cellular level, fasting triggers autophagy, a process where the body breaks down damaged and dysfunctional cells, recycling them to build healthier ones. This process is critical for longevity and disease prevention. Without autophagy, the body accumulates cellular waste, leading to inflammation, aging, and a high risk of chronic diseases. Scientific studies have shown that fasting can reduce the likelihood of conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and even neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's. Fasting also profoundly impacts metabolism. When food is consumed constantly, especially refined carbohydrates and sugars, insulin levels remain elevated, leading to insulin resistance, a root cause of obesity, diabetes, and metabolic disorders. However, when fasting is introduced, insulin levels drop, allowing the body to access stored fat for energy. This process, known as ketosis, not only aids in weight management but also enhances brain function. The brain thrives on ketones, molecules produced when the body burns fat, leading to improved focus, mental clarity, and cognitive performance. Growth hormone production increases significantly during fasting, promoting muscle preservation, fat loss, and overall regeneration. Additionally, fasting reduces oxidative stress, a major contributor to aging and degenerative diseases. The reduction in inflammation during fasting allows the body to reset and repair itself at a fundamental level. This is why many who practice fasting regularly report feeling lighter, more energetic, and mentally sharper. The psychological effects of fasting are equally profound. When food intake is temporarily halted, the mind becomes clearer, less clouded by the constant cycle of hunger and gratification. Many people don't realize how much mental energy is spent thinking about food, planning meals, or responding to cravings. When this is taken out of the equation, a new level of mental discipline emerges. Fasting teaches the mind to function beyond habitual compulsions, leading to greater self-control and resilience. Interestingly, fasting is now being explored as a potential therapy for various diseases, including cancer. Certain studies suggest that fasting before chemotherapy can make cancer cells more vulnerable to treatment while protecting healthy cells. This is because fasting activates stress response pathways that enhance the body's ability to withstand harsh conditions while weakening cancerous cells. Similarly, intermittent fasting has been linked to increased lifespan in multiple studies on animals and humans, showing that periodic fasting can slow the aging process and extend life expectancy. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence supporting fasting, it remains misunderstood by many. Some see it as a form of starvation, but there's a critical distinction. Starvation is an involuntary state of deprivation, whereas fasting is a controlled, intentional process that optimizes bodily functions. When done correctly, with proper hydration and awareness, fasting becomes one of the most powerful tools for health and longevity. It's not just a religious practice or a weight loss method. It's a deeply rooted biological strategy that aligns with how the human body is designed to function. While many modern dietary approaches focus on what to eat, fasting shifts the focus to when not to eat. This simple yet revolutionary perspective allows the body to reset, rejuvenate, and operate at its peak potential. Whether observed for spiritual reasons or scientific benefits, fasting is ultimately an essential practice that transcends culture and belief. It's not merely a tradition passed down through generations. It's a profound biological rhythm that has been an integral part of human existence since the beginning of time. Fasting has long been associated with religious traditions, but its essence goes far beyond the boundaries of faith. It's often viewed as a ritualistic act prescribed by religious scriptures, a way to prove devotion or seek divine blessings. While fasting is indeed deeply embedded in the practices of Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, and many other spiritual paths, its true significance is far more universal. It's not just about religious obligation, it's a profound tool for self-discipline, transformation, and awakening to a higher state of awareness. The idea that fasting belongs solely to religion limits its potential. In reality, fasting is a fundamental human experience, a practice that transcends belief systems and speaks to the very core of human nature. Long before organized religions were established, fasting was an integral part of human life. Early, humans living as hunter-gatherers naturally experienced prolonged periods without food. Unlike today, where food is available on demand, our ancestors had to go through cycles of feast and famine. Their bodies adapted to these conditions, developing mechanisms that allowed them to survive and even thrive in a fasting state. This means that fasting is not an invention of religion. It's ingrained in human biology. It's not something imposed upon us. It's something that aligns with the very way our bodies were designed to function. Across cultures and civilizations, fasting has been recognized as a means to cleanse not just the body, but also the mind. Ancient Greek philosophers, including Socrates, Plato, and Hippocrates, practiced and advocated fasting, believing it enhanced mental clarity and overall health. The Stoics of ancient Rome fasted to cultivate discipline and detachment from worldly pleasures. In Japan, the practice of shinrori, a form of mindful eating and fasting among Buddhist monks, has been a path to achieving inner balance for centuries. In India, yogis and sages have long embraced fasting as a means to purify the body and sharpen the mind for meditation. These traditions did not emerge from religious obligation, but from an experiential understanding that fasting refines the human system. Fasting also holds immense scientific value. Modern research confirms what ancient civilizations intuitively understood. Fasting initiates powerful biological processes that promote healing and longevity. It activates autophagy, a process where the body removes damaged cells and regenerates new ones. It regulates insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, enhances brain function, and promotes emotional stability. The benefits of fasting are universal. They are not reserved for the religiously observant. Whether one believes in God or not, whether one follows a spiritual path or not, the body and mind respond to fasting in the same way. The effects are not dependent on faith, but on biological and psychological principles that apply to all human beings. In modern society, where instant gratification dominates, fasting offers something radical, a way to reclaim mastery over one's impulses. Most people today have become slaves to their desires, unable to tolerate even the slightest discomfort. The moment hunger arises, they reach for food. The moment boredom sets in, they seek distractions. The moment an emotion becomes difficult to handle, they try to suppress it with external pleasures. Fasting interrupts this cycle. It forces a person to confront their cravings, habits, and dependencies. It's an opportunity to develop true inner strength, to observe oneself without reacting impulsively. This is why fasting is not just a religious practice. It's a psychological and spiritual tool that empowers human beings to rise above their compulsions. There's also a deeply philosophical aspect to fasting that often goes unnoticed. The act of abstaining from food, even for a short period, reveals something profound about human nature. It exposes the illusion of need. People eat out of habit, not necessity. They indulge in excess without questioning whether their bodies truly require it. Fasting breaks this illusion. It teaches that the body can function with far less than what modern lifestyles dictate. It creates an awareness that extends beyond food. It brings clarity to all aspects of life. The same principles that apply to eating apply to material possessions, emotional attachments, and thought patterns. By voluntarily giving up something as fundamental as food, one begins to understand the nature of attachment and detachment on a much deeper level. In a world driven by consumption, fasting stands as an act of rebellion. It's a conscious decision to step away from excess, to break free from the conditioning that dictates more is always better. It teaches that true fulfillment does not come from external indulgence but from inner balance. It's a way to simplify life, strip away distractions, and focus on what truly matters. This is why fasting is not confined to any one belief system. It's a universal practice, relevant for every human being, regardless of their spiritual or religious background. While religious fasting is often tied to specific dates and customs, the true power of fasting lies in its ability to awaken a deeper understanding of oneself. It's not about following rules set by others. It's about experiencing firsthand what it means to be free from unnecessary dependencies. It's about realizing that human potential is far greater than what comfort and indulgence allow. Whether practiced in a spiritual context or as a personal experiment in self-mastery, fasting remains one of the most profound ways to reconnect with the essential nature of life. Fasting, in its truest essence, is far more than just abstaining from food. It's a journey into self-mastery, a profound tool for transformation that extends across the physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions of life. Whether practiced for religious devotion, scientific benefits, or personal discipline, fasting remains one of the most powerful ways to break free from compulsions, cultivate awareness, and tap into the deeper intelligence of the body and mind. Across cultures and civilizations, fasting has always been recognized as a means to cleanse, strengthen, and elevate human experience. It's not confined to any single tradition. Rather, it's a universal practice that speaks to the very core of human nature. In every faith, philosophy, ancient wisdom, and modern science, fasting is a bridge between the material and the transcendent, a path that leads to clarity, resilience, and renewal. At a time when indulgence is celebrated and self-control is often overlooked, fasting offers a radical yet simple reminder. True power lies not in accumulation, but in conscious restraint. It teaches that freedom is not about giving in to every desire, but about having the strength to choose wisely. It's a return to balance, a way to reset the body, mind, and spirit, allowing one to live with greater energy, awareness, and purpose. Ultimately, fasting is not just about food, it's about life itself. It's a reminder that within every human being exists immense potential waiting to be unlocked, not through excess but through discipline. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes by choosing to let go, we gain far more than we could ever imagine.